because I put myself out there, I didn't even realize I was building this brand like that. I was literally just putting myself out there and my ethos, my beliefs, what I believe about barbering, what I know about barbering, what I know about business, and all of those things there. And suddenly people started kind of connecting with it. And then, suddenly brands are watching it. That's why even in my book, I got a chapter saying, you're always in an interview. You might not know it, but you're always in an interview. People who are watching you are interviewing you. So even if they're not particularly interviewing you right now for a job, if a job comes about, they're going to think about who you are and say, would he or she be suitable? Nah. Yes. And that's how these things just kind of came.
Amos Madra.
Mark McIver, founder, owner of Slider Cuts. You have really done incredible work in terms of transforming a very ordinary position into an extraordinary role. You've worked with some of the biggest brands and celebrities as well. LeBron James, to speak of any. I mean, when LeBron James are like, oh, that's it. Mic drop. Yeah. Stop. Before I even move on to any, an abundance of Premier League footballers. I could just go on forever. Great music artists like Stormzy, Tiny Temper. The list goes on. You've worked with brands like Coca-Cola. I could go on. But yeah, Mark, your story is remarkable. How did a barber go on to achieve such greatness?
Great question. Well, I think there's a number of things. You can't narrow it down to like one or two things. There's a number of things. For me, what has been one, my dedication and diligence to my craft, and just wanting to do everything to the best of my ability. Now, that obviously doesn't give people a breakdown, but it literally is that. And if I was to break down all the stories and my interactions and where some of these opportunities came from, then people would then fully understand, oh, it literally is just a diligence to your craft and wanting to be the best you can literally be at whatever you're doing. So when it came to hair, and I was cutting hair, when I started professionally at 18 years old, because I started when I was like 13, 14, but I started working in a shop when I was 18. My whole drive was to literally just be a good barber. I looked at the barbers above me and I looked up to them and I was just like, I want to cut like that one day. So I focused on that. I was working, 7 days a week. I was working morning till night. If customers came in at the end of the day, I would take them on. I was a student of the craft. I was respectful to the craft. I was respectful to my environment. I was respectful to the elders. If the elders told me to go shop, I went to the shop. When one of the older barbers said to me, as example, we were working in North London, go to South London to pick up these clippers for me. Nothing to do with me. I went there. He wasn't paying for my travel. He wasn't paying me for it, but I did it. I was just dedicated to my craft and I was respectful in that way as well. So how those things transpired to, let's say, cutting certain people is one, that older barber who will send me out places and, I used to get, herbal tea for every Saturday morning on the way to work. He would call me sometimes at night and be like, go open up the shop for this person. I would do it. Me being reliable and, just being there meant that, I was someone he could trust. So, for example, when he had certain football players, he was cutting and he went on holiday, even though there was another barber that was better than me in the shop, he was like, oh, you go to Slider, because he just saw it as one of the relationship built there and it was trust. I'm going to follow instructions. I'm just going to be there. I'm going to be reliable. I'm just going to try and follow the blueprint of what that barber has done. So he was sending customers to me, even though there were better barbers to do that for me. So, that's one thing. And then it's like, as I'm progressively getting better, now before social media, my name is getting out there in the area. Cut with Slider. I'm getting busier now. I'm cutting, sweating it out, long days. And now I've got like a full client list or busy client list, right? And now through that, word of mouth happens. So then you end up, cutting certain people just because of word of mouth and through connections, but just because, you know, you might have a brother, a cousin, a friend who is a celebrity of some sort, and I'm cutting your hair and I'm doing you a good job, and you're happy with the service I give you, and this is what was happening, then you're like, oh, you know, you should come and see my barber. Or maybe their barber for some reason can't do it today, and you're like, no, come and see my barber. And you trust, because of the service I've given you, that I'm going to give that person a good service. So that's what I mean by it's just diligence in your craft and being the best you can actually be, and not just kind of like, I always say this statement of not just being the right person when you think the right person is around, but just becoming that right person, period. Meaning that when the right person's around, you give them a good haircut, you talk proper, you give a great service, you act a certain way because you think you can gain something from that particular person who's in the room. But my thing is, if that's how you think you should act when the right person's around, then that's how you should act, period. And treat everyone like that, or try to treat everyone like that. So that way there, you won't miss opportunities, because you might be the right person and I don't know it. You might be the person that recommends me to go cut Barack Obama's hair, as example, and I don't know it. You know, you might be kind of impress that person, but that person has no connections for you. So that's literally how it happened. It's just like word of mouth. And then social media came out. Then I was putting myself out there on social media, my character, my beliefs, my ethos, and people were connecting with that, as well as my haircuts, putting out loads of haircuts. So now it's spreading around, and now you have a digital business card that people can view. So when you say, come and see my barber, now that person can go onto my page and look through my haircuts, look at my character, look at what I believe, all the things there, right? And judge for themselves whether they want to come or not. So that's kind of like, I know it's a long answer, but that's how, you know, it all came about, you know, the people I'm cutting and all of these things there. And the brand collaborations, that came from my personality online. So with Instagram, with Facebook, you know, with Twitter, with, you know, all the rest of them, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all, you know, the social media platforms, right? YouTube. Because I was putting myself out there, I didn't even realize I was building this brand like that. I was literally just putting myself out there, and my ethos, my beliefs, what I believe about barbering, what I know about barbering, what I know about business, and all of those things there. And suddenly people started kind of connecting with it. And then, you know, suddenly brands are watching it. You know, that's why even in my book, I got a chapter saying, you're always in an interview. You know, you might not know it, but you're always in an interview. People who are watching you are interviewing you. So even if they're not particularly interviewing you right now for a job, if a job comes about, they're going to think about who you are and say, would he or she be suitable? Nah, yes. And that's how these things just kind of came.
Incredible, incredible. I'm just fascinated by this whole journey. And I think the audience can get a ton of value out of this because these are transferable skills. It's not very specific to one particular area. You could do this with literally anything, whatever it
Yeah.
is that you are passionate about, that you love to do. Just the pure diligence, hard work, and do you know what? Being humble, because those times where you were being sent to the shops and you were just doing, getting your herbal tea or whatever, you could have said no. Why should I do it? But you just, you were faithful in that, and you were faithful in that small times, and it just led to obviously where things
Yes.
are today. And I think one thing is you've also embraced technology, you've embraced forward thinking, you've pioneered the
Mm.
way pretty much, through your talent, your gift will make room for you, and yours certainly has done that. You've now obviously written a book, you're huge in social media, you're pretty much a celebrity yourself, you're doing great things, and that's now opened more doors for you, and it's now giving you more things that you could look at. But I love the fact that you're still very core to who you are, what you love, and you still stick to that. So talk to us in terms of you know working with these different brands. Talk to us about your thought process. What were you thinking? How did you said that they came to you and it was almost you being interviewed. How did you go about collaborating, expanding, and growing your brand?
So with the brand collaborations and the whole even building my brand, that happened. See, I always say there are some things which are thought out So there's some things which I might do, and it's like, I planned for that. And there's other things which I didn't plan for. But when I look at the recipe of what I was mixing up, I was cooking up something good without knowing it. So when it comes to the brand collaborations, I didn't realize what I was doing. As I said earlier, I was just putting myself out there, and I didn't realize I didn't realize I was being a personality. Even at the time, I didn't even think I even knew even what that term even meant when I was doing it. But I was baking this cake, you could say, and I was adding egg, flour, sugar, and whatever things go into baking a cake, But I just knew I was doing something good. It's almost like you're just mixing up this stuff, and it's gonna be, you feel like you're putting in some of the right ingredients, but you're not actually doing it to bake a cake. I was just doing it because I was just doing it. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying telling people about what was going on in the barbershop. I was enjoying talking. I was just enjoying it. And it looked like some of these brands were like, right, we like that. What it always was they said they like the energy. They find it very vibrant, and they thought, what do you call it? I was
It was authentic. I can imagine.
yeah, and personable.
Yeah.
Is what people said. So for me, not even trying to sell myself, I ended up selling myself. And this is why it's kind of like my whole thing is you don't have to know what's coming from what you're doing to do a good job and to do it properly. Because even when I was doing these things still, I was still doing things in a way that was receivable for the audience. So as example, I remember being like making sure, I've even got here, always got a lens cleaner on me. Why have I got a lens cleaner? Because it's important to make sure your lens is always clean, because if it's not clean, when people are watching it, it's distorted, it's muffled, it's cloudy, the image. So it's kind of like, if people are going to be watching me, make sure that the lens is clean. So I used to always be like, okay, if I'm going to commentate on something that's happening in the barbershop, maybe let's say there's a joke that's happening in the barbershop, right? And I'm videoing it, I'm recording it saying, oh, hey guys, look what's happened. I used to always say, I need to make sure that I'm narrating what's happened, because there's nothing more frustrating than people who film a situation and you don't know what's going on as the viewer. So you're just there watching and everyone's jumping up and, oh, you can't even believe it. And as a viewer, you're just watching and thinking, okay, what's going on? You don't know, but it looks like it's fun. It looks funny, but we don't know. So I remember always being like, okay, it's important that the audience always knows what's going on and the audience are involved in it, not just film something and not tell them. So I might be in a natural moment where something's happened, right? Let's say, I don't know, you've fallen, you slipped over and, I don't know, you ripped your jeans or something like that, right? And everyone's jumping up and down. So I would be like, okay, I'm filming it now as an example, but then I'll be on camera like, oh my goodness, can you believe anyone ripped his jeans? This guy fell over and ripped his jeans. Look at him, guys, right? So I would always consciously make sure that you as the viewer understand what's going on. Even little things like everyone's jumping up and down. I always be like, what? As much as I want to jump up and down right now, I need to make sure that viewers can see what's going on. So even though I wasn't doing this because I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna have some TV show one day, or Instagram or Facebook or all the other different brands, Nike are gonna contact me to do an advert for them or do a brand collaboration. It was just important for me, and this is where it comes from. It's understanding just being a servant. If you are selling anything to anybody, you are serving them. Like whatever you're giving to someone, you're doing an act of service. So it's having that mindset in everything I do. Like when I'm the young barber, go to the shop. I go to the shop. Why? I am a servant. I understand. I'm not embarrassed of that. I am a servant. If I'm putting out content for you to view, I am serving you. So I'm always making sure, are you being served well? If my screen is blurry, if I'm throwing the camera around, you can't see what's going on, you are not being served well. So I have this kind of, like, you could say, to be honest, a servant mindset. And in everything I do, I understand you're serving people. So make sure you serve them properly. So through doing all those things there, even though I wasn't thinking about what was coming from it, it's like, well, now when someone's watching my videos, because I used to get people on the street who I'm not interested in barbering, stopping me saying, oh, I follow your Instagram, like I really love your Insta stories. And I'd look at them like, I'd be like, oh, well, why are you following it? Because, you're like a,
you need
like
a trim.
Example. It'd be that. It'd be example. It'd be like a, white middle class woman, right? And I'll see her, she might be with her kids are white, super long hair. So I'd look and I'd be like, okay, well, the kids don't look like getting the haircuts I give, you know, you know, why are you watching it? And it just people used to say things like they just found it entertaining and interesting. And see all the things which I was doing, which was making it clear for them to be able to see what was going on in a barber shop. They felt like they had a insight into maybe a world which they hadn't seen before. So this is how all of these things came about. It's literally just in everything you do, it's doing it to the best of your ability, but also being a student of that thing that you're doing. So not just being like, well, I'm going to do some Insta stories. Well, think about how do I do the Insta stories to the best of my ability? How do I push them up? How do I make sure they're clearer? How do I make sure I get more engagement? How do I make sure that the audience is being served well? So that is how a lot of these things have come. It's just literally being a servant. So, and what I said, sorry, before you speak, what I said earlier, which was there are some things which are planned and there's some things which are not. So with these brand collaborations, these things weren't planned. Like I always had it in my head that, one day I'll collaborate with, I always thought, one day I'd collaborate with like, a clipper brand. Because that made sense to me. I'm a barber. So one day it would make sense that, you're doing stuff with clipper brands and potentially maybe hair products because this is my niche. But I wasn't thinking to myself, Nike, Coca-Cola, Reebok, Under Armour, Facebook, Uber, which is their campaign, which is out right now. I wasn't thinking about these type of people, but that has come from, even though you don't know what's coming from it, do it properly.
Incredible. Absolutely amazing. And and that's it. It's just turning up every day, putting the work in, giving everything that you've got, and ultimately being of service. I think sometimes we complain, why are we not earning what we want to earn? Are we serving people?
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
boils down to. And the biggest, the greatest servant amongst you is is the greatest. Whoever can serve the most. Elon Musk is serving a load of people.
Yeah.
Bezos and all these guys. And when we can learn from that, and then doors will start to open. This is so good. There's so much wealth of wisdom just from this interview. Now, again, when I think about the celebrities that you've worked with, LeBron James, what was that
Yeah.
like when he walked into your chair and you were like, LBJ is in my seat and I'm about to trim his what was that experience like?
You know what? Because I wasn't that into basketball, I knew of his name, but I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know really who he was, but I knew he was like one of the biggest stars. I heard about him, I heard people always talking about him. I heard rap songs that had his name in it. Like I not like I didn't know who he was. I knew who, but I didn't know what he looked like until
This
I know
six
what he
foot
looked
eight guy walks in your in your shop.
like. No, actually, no. Maybe I didn't know what he looked like. Actually, maybe I think I know. Actually, I think I did know what he looked like. I think I can't remember, but either way, I wasn't really that into basketball at the time, so it was just like, okay, this guy's a big deal. I know that, but I just said to myself, hair is hair. So hair is hair. Do what you do in it.
Yeah.
Hair because hair is hair. So it was all right. It was cool because he was talking, he was asking me questions. He was just talking about, what's London like? What did you grow up around here? What part of London? It was just like a casual conversation.
Yeah.
And I caught him a few times. I can't remember how many times, 3, 4 times while he was here for the Olympics. And yeah, it was all right. It was just sometimes it's about the client, how the client makes you feel.
Yeah.
So a client can make you feel scared. A client can make you feel can make the situation intense.
That's
A client can make you feel very relaxed. And he made the situation very relaxed because he wasn't like being a certain way. He was just being calm and just talking about normal things. So he made the situation very calm.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly you're very good at what you do. You've got the likes of Anthony Joshua regular client, that is, you are his man, his go-to.
One of
What's
his
that
go-tos.
relationship like? Building
One of his
that
go-tos. Yeah, no, I'm one of his go-tos. He doesn't only go to me.
yeah,
He was just going to me mainly. He goes to me,
yeah,
and that's seasonal because sometimes he might be training in camp and be out of London for the next 4 months, and he just goes to a local barbershop, wherever's closest to his camp. He'll just go to and get a haircut there. So, you know, I'm not his only barber. You could say over the years I've been his main barber.
yeah.
That's like sometimes people will send me a picture and goes, "I think Joshua was in his barbershop," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's not in some exclusive relationship with me."
Get them
he
to
can,
sign year-long contracts.
it is his hair. He can do what he wants. He can never come back to me if he doesn't want to. Some
Yeah,
people like to me, nah, he's taking a mick. How can he do that? And I'm like, I don't get it. Is it not his money?
yeah,
So
yeah,
is he not allowed to spend his money where he wants to spend his money? Like, and I guess to be honest, like as another thing, I think especially even as a barber, this is what has actually probably helped me to progress to where I'm at. That I just treat the business like the business. Like I could be cutting into Joshua for the last 8 years. He might not see me. He might not, if he doesn't want to cut with me for the next year, and then one day he wants to cut with me as a one-off, he can. Like, I'm just here to offer you a service. If what I'm offering you, you don't like for whatever reason, which is either the price, I'm too far, I'm too busy, he doesn't like the haircut anymore, someone cuts the hair better than me. It's like, well, that's fine. You shouldn't be feeling guilty to have to stay with someone, for whatever reason. So yeah, but that's what I just say to people, if for all my clients, the focus is on making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and if you don't want to cut with me, then I've done something wrong.
mm,
Sometimes the thing I've done wrong isn't something I would change because it could just be literally I'm too busy. And that's not something I would change being busy, but it's still something I've done wrong in the sense of I'm wrong in the situation because I can't serve that client because I'm too busy. You know, I'm too far for that client to come. So it's something I've done wrong, not anything I change, but something I've done wrong because I'm too far to serve that client. So I always put it back down to me. But yeah, sorry, I went off
no,
on
no,
one.
no,
But yeah,
absolutely. I love your work ethic, and I just love your philosophy and the way your outlook of life. Have you always been this way? Is this, obviously, again, keep coming back to the point that is brought you to where you are today. But prior to being 18, was this always who you were? Was this how you were raised?
yes, I've always been a hard worker. I've always said it, people think, oh, you work this hard because you work for yourself. It's like, no, I work this hard because I work this hard. If I was working in Sainsbury's, I'd have been working this hard because I would have been, it's my work ethic. My wife says all the time, probably I would have, if I worked in Sainsbury's, I probably would have gone up in the ranks because of the way I work. Because I don't see it as, oh, you work this hard because you're working for yourself. It's just me. I work hard, and I'm willing to submit myself to authority and to the people above me. So prior to this, I've just always been that. Like I missed the go above and beyond. So, as example, let's say when I'm 16, 17 years old, I remember the youth club I used to go to. Like I remember, we don't work for the youth club, but we started putting on events, or even I played a heavy part in putting on events in that youth club. I wasn't getting paid for it, but it was just kind of like I'm just there, So we started putting on events for the youth club for the younger people, and we partially started doing where it's almost like you're kind of working, but you're not working. I'm not getting paid for it, but it's just what you do if you're in it. You be in it. So I think from young I've kind of had that kind of like that work ethic, that kind of mindset. Also, I think I've always had this like servant mindset to some degree without knowing as a servant mindset. I just wasn't kind of like, yeah, I always had actually no, I've always had a servant mindset. I'm looking back at some of the things, even when I was younger and I used to MC. I remember when I joined this crew and we had like a boss. Like, and I just remember, yeah, I acted like I was in service to him in the sense if he asked me to do something, I would do it. And I remember they used to always say things like that. You know, I would do it. If they said, "Oh, go get this thing," I'll do it. You know, I remember like putting on events with my friends and, you know, carrying speakers far, wherever it is, setting up or getting to events early. I remember, you know, and it probably comes from my childhood. Things like I remember like going to church with my mom, and she used to make us get to church like 2 hours earlier. So we were the first ones there, and we would just be setting up. But it wasn't our job. We weren't assigned to doing it, but you know, we just did it. And I think all those little things there probably played a part subconsciously in my head, where it's just like, you know, you do what you can do. You know, you don't have to do something because of the return. You just do because you can. You know, so you help someone because you can help someone, not because of what you might get back for it, but because of what you can give to that person. But then what you find is when you do all these type of things there, you start realizing that some of these things come back. Not everything, some things it just stays with that person. You give someone some money to eat, that might never come back to you. But it doesn't need to come back to you because the reason why you gifted someone with the food was so that they could eat. So that gift stayed with them. But when I realized just doing all these things there, when I look back on my life, it's like, oh right, you know, I've helped that person out as example, you know, or that person stole money from me as example, or whatever it is, right? But then it's like, okay, but this thing came back for me and this really helped me out. So having that kind of like personality and attitude has helped me out a lot. Also has cost me a lot as well, to be honest. You know, lost money and been bumped and all these other
It's all an
things.
experience, isn't it?
It's all the experience. But yeah, I think yeah, from young I actually have had this kind of mindset. It's just I've got older, it's developed more and you know been nurtured more and matured more.
Hmm. It's all an experience, and I think even the difficult times, I don't think it would make you the person that you are today. It's you learn from those things. No time is ever wasted. Even the times when it didn't go according to plan, it's still
Yeah,
a life lesson, something that you
yeah,
can take with you. And some of these things play a big role later on. But
yeah, 100%.
I think just that's the biggest, I think, takeaway for us to all take today. Just being a servant, serving people. Until you can serve, you cannot be great. The greatest amongst us are the biggest servants, and I think that is, that's it. That is just what it's all about. It's about serving each other. Life is about relationships, and you've clearly demonstrated that. So, what can we expect from you in the future? What have you got planned? The book is out. You've got collaborations coming up. Your brand is constantly growing. What can we expect?
I think probably more written works, so more books to come. I'll put there, you know, at some point I might do a Shaping Up Culture too, because the first book is called Shaping Up Culture, you know, or you know, shaping up, I don't know, shaping up something, I don't know. But there'll probably be another book there. I think also another book which would be How to Open Up a Barbershop. I think I started that about a year ago, maybe just over a year ago. So I might do another book like that. Also, there'll be like more probably brand collaborations. But it's the thing with these brand collaborations, I haven't reached out to none of these brands you see me work with. I've reached out to. They've all contacted me, so it's not like I can say I want to work with this brand or that brand because it's just about who contacts me to do some work. Um, what else would I be doing? More public speaking, more teaching people, and at some point, maybe because this is something I've always wanted to do as well, which is opening up a academy, you know, a barber academy, a barber slash business academy is what I want to open up. So I think those things are the few things you can expect from me. And just, you know, being on your screen every day if you follow me on Instagram or YouTube or through all the platforms, you know, LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you get more of the Mark McIver side of, you know, the person behind the brand who gives my opinions on things and gives advice on business and all those things there. And I think I want to nurture really that side of me. You know, we've got Slider Cuts, you know, but Mark McIver, who's the, you know, the thinker, the talker, you know, the brains behind, you know, the business. I really enjoy that side of things. So yeah, if you guys are watching, go follow my LinkedIn, Mark McIver, and you know, you constantly see my articles that I constantly keep putting up.
That is really good, and I like the way you curate the different social media platforms. LinkedIn is very business orientated, and
Yeah.
it's about Mark McIver, and the other ones, we're looking at Slider Cuts. So yeah, it's a nice mix. Certainly, definitely going to put the links in the description. Make sure the audience can connect with you as well. We'll put that all there for you, for the audience to connect with. Wow, Mark, I think a film will be suitable as well soon. I think we could get some sort of superhero, Mark McIver, and then when he goes into the barber shop, he turns
You know what's funny?
into Slider Cuts.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that?
Yeah,
I wrote a comic book. And you just reminded me.
that
I
needs
wrote a
to.
comic book about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years ago. I wrote a comic book, and we actually got someone to create it and everything like that. But then I couldn't afford to do it at the time because I couldn't afford it, right? And then it's funny. Recently, I spoke to my wife. I was like, I can actually afford to do this comic book now because we've got the storyline, we've got the whole story of what it is. It is about a young boy. Although I'm changing it now. It originally was my son who was going to become Slider Cuts, who was this superhero who went around. It's comedic. He went around saving people's hairlines. It's like Slider Cuts, the hairline savior, who used to get senses that a haircut was going wrong and would run into barbershops and stop the person, where they were at, and all that kind of stuff. Then originally it was my son who was my son Makello. But now, especially, I got more children. I don't think I'd narrow it down to one person, but I probably change the name as well. But yeah, so I actually have got that story. But I said recently we came to a place where we could afford it, but then I can't afford it now anymore because we now have bought a new place to live, and that's taken all our money and more. Like even the works that need to be done, we haven't even got the money for it. Don't tell the builders. We will find the money and make payments on time. So yes, the things that are rare. We can't afford to do the book level.
we need that. We need that film out. We need the comic out, the book out. I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you going to commit to that? Is it going to come out? Are we expecting it at least in the next? I don't know. I don't want to put a time slot on it, but is it going to happen?
Out. The comic book will definitely come out.
It'll happen.
That's definitely going to come out because even now, even up to now, anytime I see someone online that does comic book drawings, I always save them into a folder. So even like up to a couple of weeks ago, I saw someone online and I was like, okay, yeah, save that person. So I'm still looking at different people to say who do the best drawings for it. So that's definitely going to come out. Films and things like that. To be fair, actually, I don't know if I'm going to be in it, but I did play a cameo in a film earlier this year. My cameo might be cut out. So I'm not going to say where it is because it might be cut out. But it's with some recognizable faces, but it might be cut out. So that's why I'm not talking about it because, if you get cut, then you're telling everyone, "Hey, I'm going to be in this film, that film," and then it's kind of like everyone's watching, like, "Where did you go?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you see when they were at the bus stop? See when the bus went by? See, I was behind the bus."
Oh man, don't worry. Listen, we've all been there. I've played a guy in the background before.
At least you got seen. I might not be seen.
But wow. So exciting times ahead. I'm going to keep an eye on that. I'm going to keep an eye. All right. Every now and again, I'll just remind you a little bit if I've not seen it published. But I know you're going to get it out there. And thank you for sharing that exclusively with us. That is awesome. That is absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Mark.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.